Hi, this is Danny Lewis, course developer and tutor here at Point Blank Online. This video is going to be all about setting up a podcast in GarageBand. So it assumes you've got your mix session all ready to go, and we're going to be putting in chapter markers, going to be sorting out the voiceovers, getting it all nice and professional with the artwork as well, and hyperlinks to the artists so you can support the artists that are in your mix session. Now, this kind of stuff is covered on the Music Business Level 2 course. Lots of other stuff about promoting yourselves online, so you might want to check that out. But in this video, we're going to spend about the next 10 minutes covering specifically setting up your podcast in GarageBand. To create an enhanced podcast from a mix, we need the mix itself. So I've got the AIF file here. I've got the logo that we're going to embed into the podcast here, and also the track listing. This is just a little text document. I've included the hyperlinks so that if you can buy the track, you can go directly to that. And if there is no ability to purchase, it's going to link to the artist or to the record label page. So that's the starting point. The logo itself, this one's a large one. I need to reduce the size, so we're going to come down to adjust size. This is going to be 300 by 300. Make sure your resolution is 72 pixels per inch. Going to click OK and File, save this. So we've got the logo, we've got the information that we need to put into the podcast, and we've also got the podcast itself, the mix session. So there are different options that you can use for creating a podcast. If you've got a Mac, there's a free option, which is GarageBand. So if you open up GarageBand, you'll conveniently see an icon for podcast, and I'm going to double click. I'm going to choose a name for this. So Deep House May 2012, and it's going to give us a default setup. So you can see here a male voice track, female voice, which I'm going to delete with Command and Backspace, and then jingles. Going to take the mix session, drag this underneath, so it's going to create a new track. And what we need to do is to basically work with the transition points and find where the blends are, because we're going to put a marker in. So let's just zoom out a little bit here. Let's try and judge where it is. Just going to zoom out a bit more. Okay, so we've got a transition here. The vocal from the first track is playing. There are some chord stabs from the second track. I'm going to get ready to push P, which is where we're going to put down a marker. It's up to you where you place these. You might want to do it halfway through the transition. I think I'm going to aim when the vocal stops, and the second track is basically in isolation. It's coming up now, I think. There we go. Right, just push P there. So that's basically put a marker down for the second track. Let's come to the beginning and let's push P, and let's set up the first track. So you can see now that we've got the episode artwork information boxes here. I'm going to drag now my logo. That's going to be placed into the podcast, and we can now get to work on sorting out the actual track information. If I double click my document here, I've got the actual names of the tracks and also the hyperlinks. So the first one here, chapter title, I'm going to select all of this. Just going to click in here and paste the information. The URL title is website, and then the URL is going to be this one here. You're going to see something different on the next one. Okay, let me just double check this. Looks a bit strange pasted, but it's absolutely fine. So that's done. Now the next one is something where there is actually a buy link. Okay, so we're going to get something a little bit different. So Calvera B-side. The URL title is buy link. And you could call it whatever you want, to be honest. You could say buy now or purchase. And that's there. So all this information is getting embedded into the actual podcast. And so it's a really nice gesture. You know, you're making basically a podcast to get yourself probably heard through a wider audience, maybe get yourself some gigs and stuff. So it's nice to actually give something back to the artists and producers whose tracks are actually inside your mix. So let's keep going. Next one's coming in here. Let's go forward. Okay, when the piano comes in, So here we go. The third track. I'm going to paste the information in. I'm not going to do this with every single one, otherwise the video is going to be boring. But you get the picture here. Let's get this sorted out with the link. I've selected tracksource.com as a shop. There are obviously other choices as well, so pick your favorite store. So that's what we do. We create the actual markers at the transition points, and I'm going to get that all sorted out for the complete mix and come back on the other side and I'll show you what the next stage is. So I've got all my podcast markers set up. You can see them all here. So remember, if you can't get a buy link to a website or something, this could be if these are exclusive, CDRs, whatever. Okay, so at least they can find out information about the artist. So what I need to do now is I need to set up for recording my voiceover. You know, I'm going to do this like a radio show and introduce the tracks and talk about stuff. And, you know, if you look up the rules of podcasting, you are supposed to do talking. I know plenty of people do podcasts that are just music, but, you know, the rules are with the PRS in the UK that you're supposed to do something like 80% music and then the rest is going to be some form of dialogue. So they're the guidelines. Now, in order to get this recording, I want to make sure that I've got the proper mic set up. So I'm going to come to the preferences, going to set my audio input to the Yeti, which is my proper mic that I've got here. So it's saying here, do I want to change the driver? I'm going to say yes, and it's just going to sort itself out now. And then what I can do is I can actually record on my Yeti mic. You can see now the response is different on the metering here. So I'll be able to record it. I'm just going to show you, do a little demonstration now. 1, 2, testing, 1, 2, 1, 2. Now you can see the level's really, really hot. So on my mic, I'm going to turn the input level down, just reaching around the back. Probably sound a bit noisy there, so I'm just going to come back and record some again. Testing 2, testing 2. So that's a lot better. You want to make sure that we're not hitting the very, very top there. So somewhere around the middle, just above the middle is good. So, you know, I'm saying where my cursor is here. If you're not familiar with waveforms, this central point here is silence, and then we're moving up to the top to the loudest point. So around halfway is kind of like the midpoint for level, and it radiates out downwards as well. So that's set up. I can actually start recording my voiceovers now. So I'm going to go away and do that and then come back on the other side and then we'll look at the finishing touches. So I've got my voiceovers recorded. You can see them at various sections here. And one of the great things about this template is that it automatically works with ducking the music whenever your vocal is there. So it creates a real nice kind of professional radio vibe. And I'm just going to show you here, if you want to take a look at it, you come down and we've got these different tabs. And if you click on the eye, you've got a section real instrument and master track. So if you click on the master track, you can see here there's the ducker and you can see the settings here. So that's automatically reducing the volume of the music when the vocal is actually occurring. So it gives you that radio vibe. Now, also you may see that on my vocal here, I added an effect, the CMX. I just wanted to add a little bit of a sheen to the vocal. So this is a plugin that's adding a little bit of stereo enhancement. And you can choose any of the plugins that you've got on your system to work there. And then what we need to do is just to set up the information for the podcast itself. So over here, just going to tick the I and bring it back. And we've got the ability to put the title in here. So I'm going to say here, point blank online Deep House podcast May 2012, presented by Danny J. Lewis. So artist is going to be various, composer, various, parental advisory. I don't remember there being any swearing in there, but if there was some swearing, we should put in here explicit. But I think that this is fine, but I'm just going to put nothing there for the moment. And in the description, we can put information. Now, what I'll do on this one is to put the hyperlink for point blank. So just going to say here, visit. So you can put in links to your Facebook or whatever you want to do in terms of promotion. This information gets embedded in the podcast file. So that's it. What we need to do now is to basically render the file so that we can upload it. So let's turn it into a file. We come up to share and we come down to export podcast to disk. We've got some options here. Okay, if you want the enhanced podcast, stick with the AAC. And the settings here determine the quality. Now, a musical podcast means it's going to be AAC at 128 kilobits per second, which is going to be good enough for most people. It's a nice compromise of quality and file size. So this is probably the one that we'd recommend, particularly if you're working with tracks that are unreleased. You don't want these to be ripped in any shape or form. So 128 kilobits per second should be absolutely fine. So we're going to click export, choose a file name. I'm just going to stick with the one that we've got here. So it renders everything that we've done into the podcast file. So here's the finished file, and this is playing in QuickTime. I'm going to play it. We can jump forward to any chapter. And of course, you can see the artwork here. You could, of course, put individual artwork for each track. So if you've got the art, then go ahead and do that. It's totally up to you. And whilst I'm here, let me just correct this. Basically, I missed out an H of the link here, the hyperlink. So that's all ready to go. I'm going to have to re-render that to include that, of course, but I'm not going to do that for you guys here. So that's how you set up an enhanced podcast. If you're the kind of person who is not so concerned about the enhanced aspect and you just want to send out an MP3, you can use share and then come down to export podcast to disk and switch to the MP3 encoder instead of the AAC one. It's the AAC that allows you to have the enhanced content. MP3 is just straight up the music file. So you can cater for a variety of different audiences. It's all up to you. If you want to learn more about podcasts and other aspects of promotion online, check out Music Business 2 Online Promotion, which is a 4-week course, and you can study this at the Point Blank Online School. You can find out more about that course here and also any of the other courses online as well. So that's pointblankonline.net for more information. At Point Blank Online, you've got 2 methods of interaction with your tutor. Firstly, you've got the weekly online masterclass, which is in real time. And then also we've got feedback on your assignments, and that's known as DVR. So the online masterclass is a 1-hour session you get with your tutor every week. You can ask questions about the lesson content and get instant feedback, and also demonstrations on the fly from their computer desktop with our streaming technology. DVR stands for Direct Video Response, and the concept is really simple. You upload your Ableton Logic or Cubase project file to your tutor, he downloads it and then pushes record on the screen capturing software and evaluates your work, so basically giving you one-to-one feedback. You see all of the mouse movements and any parameter changes made by your tutor. It's kind of like sitting in the studio over their shoulder watching what they're doing whilst they work. We have found the DVR process has truly revolutionized the way that we teach online, and the results speak for themselves. Book your place on the course now by visiting pointblankonline.net.